Hey folks, thanks for checking out Reigniting Liberty. I'm Deneen Borelli, and Dr. Tom Borelli is in the house, bringing you the truth in black and white. So folks, New York City is rolling out the red carpet for illegal migrants in the Big Apple. Just rolling that carpet right out. With overcrowded homeless shelters in New York City, Mayor Eric Adams is giving illegal migrants free hotel rooms in Times Square. Free, Free, free hotel rooms at the cost of over $400 a night. Let that sink in for a moment. And then there's this that just came across Dr. Tom as we sat down to record. From New York Post, hundreds of migrants line up at New York City Hospital for health care, food, free phones. Free. Look, Dr. Tom and I, we're going to dig into this, give you the truth in black and white about the illegal migrant crisis that is impacting states across the country. This goes far beyond a border state issue. And now every state, there is a crisis that can be happening. We've seen it up close and personal. We've had a couple of interviews about this previously on this, you and I, Dr. Tom. Well, in this episode of Reigniting Liberty, we'll discuss what's going on and the reaction from Democrat mayors in Democrat-run cities in New York City and Washington, D.C., who were dealing with the illegal migrant crisis because they are being bused from red states to their neighborhoods. Coming to a city near you, keep this in mind. We'll also focus on the political consequences of the fight over illegal migrants. Now, look, unsurprisingly, we have liberal mayors Eric Adams in New York City and Muriel Bowser of Washington, D.C., they are complaining. Wow, they are complaining that, gee, this really is a problem because I have all these people getting bused to my jurisdiction and we are overwhelmed with the homelessness crisis. We don't have anywhere to put them. And so with this influx of illegals coming across our country, being filtered out throughout the country, they are blaming the red states, the governors, for this problem. I know, I'm trying to dissect this. They are blaming the red states instead of the president, Joe Biden, Dr. Tom.
Yeah, Deneen, imagine that, right? Democrats stick together. They never vary from their support of Biden, and they will always try to punish Republicans for Biden's problems and Biden's failed policies. So how did all this start? Well, the latest saga in this illegal alien invasion was initiated when Governor Greg Abbott of Texas decided to bus some illegal aliens up to Washington, D.C., I believe it was in April, and then Arizona followed. Texas then added New York City to the destination point of illegal aliens that he's busing up. Well, and according to Fox News, and this is really interesting, the numbers aren't even a comparison. According to Fox News, about 10,000 illegal migrants have been bused from the south, from the border states up north. 10,000. Meanwhile, border states have been seeing 200,000. That's right, 200,000 illegal migrants a month. And now the New York City mayor and the mayor of DC, they can't handle the 10,000. What would they do with hundreds of thousands, right? But they complain anyway. What Abbott wanted to do, he wanted to give these liberal cities a taste of their own Biden failed policy medicine. That's what he was about to do, and that's what he did because he's dealing with huge influxes, invasion of illegal migrants. Well, of course, the Democrats are not happy about this at all. And it's interesting when reality, the consequences of reality hit you worse than just words. These liberal Democrat mayors always had warm and fuzzy words for illegal migrants. We'll get into that in a bit later. But there are also sanctuary cities. Unfortunately, in the United States, we have sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. Now, let me do a little definition here of what is a sanctuary city, because this goes to the real heart of the matter. So, according to the Center of Immigration Studies, a sanctuary city or states or area is these cities, counties, and states have laws, ordinances, regulations, resolutions, policies, or other practices that obstruct immigration enforcement and shield criminals from ICE. Important words there. Shield criminals from ICE. And just to remind everybody, ICE is the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. That's ICE. So these states, cities, territories, counties, they do not cooperate with federal law enforcement. That's where you get the word sanctuary. If you can get into a sanctuary city, you do not have to worry about being deported. Hence the word sanctuary. And what's really sick and twisted about this, it's even criminals who have been arrested. According to these laws, ordinances, regulations, whatever they want to call it, they do not notify ICE that they have someone in custody so they could be deported, and they will not cooperate with ICE if ICE knows about it and they have a detainer against them. Detainer means hold them. These sanctuary cities, states, territories, whatever they are, it's reckless and dangerous.
No, I mean, that's a lot there to unpack, Dr. Tom. And the bottom line is that people can come here and it's hands off, essentially, even if you are a criminal and you're coming into our country illegally. But there are,
It's a double criminal in a lot of ways, right?
yeah,
One, you're
it
here
is.
illegally,
Right.
and
You're
two,
breaking
you
the
break the
law.
law and get arrested.
Yep.
You're 0 for 2.
Yes.
And yet
Criminal.
these liberal states, counties, cities will protect these people. Imagine that.
Yeah. And there are significant consequences for all of this, Dr. Tom. And here's an example that we came across. ABC News has a story. It came out March the 4th of this year. Gunman who killed 3 daughters in church was in U.S. illegally. Immigration officials say a gunman who killed his 3 daughters and a chaperone in a Northern California church this week was in the United States illegally. David Mora, 39, was the gunman. At the time, Mora was out on bail after being arrested 5 days earlier on charges of resisting arrest, battery on a police officer, and driving under the influence. ICE asked to be notified when he was released from jail after he was arrested in Merced County for assaulting the California Highway Patrol officer. The Merced County Sheriff's Office told the AP that under California's so-called sanctuary state law, it does not notify immigration officials about in-custody people who are being released, and ICE was never notified. The 2017 state law restricts local law enforcement's cooperation with federal officials, except when immigrants are accused of very serious crimes. End of quote. I mean, whose side is the law on? Where does it apply?
Yeah.
Again, this is hands
Serious crime.
off.
How about DWI? That's kind of serious, you know? You could injure people and assaulting a police officer.
That's
Hello.
huge. Yeah.
So this guy was obviously dangerous, but the state of California protected him. And as a
Yeah.
consequence, 4 people lost their lives, his 3 daughters and a person, a caretaker of the daughters.
Yeah.
For people, because of that kind of reckless law. And this doesn't get enough news coverage, by the way. It is just outrageous. It doesn't get enough news coverage, at least in my view.
No, it doesn't.
Unbelievable. Now let's get back to Adams and Bowser and their views of legal migrants and sanctuary cities. So if you rewind the clock, which you like to do here on Reigniting Liberty, because we're trying to give you the truth in black and white here, if you rewind the clock and you go back into the Twitterverse, you could see a tweet from Adams before he was mayor, and this is in 2019, and he was taking a shot at President Trump at the time. Quote, "Make no mistake, New York City will, in caps, always stand up to at real Donald Trump and call him out and call out his cynical plots to divide our country. To anyone in the world fleeing hatred and oppression, the ultimate city of immigrants wants you to remember you're always, in caps again, welcomed here." The red carpet, Deneen, as you mentioned,
Sure.
you
Yeah.
are welcomed here. All you have to do is say you're oppressed. That's what a lot of these people are doing. We do have asylum laws for people who are actually in trouble, but there's way too many people just exploiting that for their own advantage to come to the U.S., come to a sanctuary city, and for them, from where they're coming from, it's heaven on earth.
Sure.
And then here's D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser from a Fox News story. Here's her quote. After the 2016 election, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser reaffirmed the city's status, saying, quote, "We celebrate our diversity and respect all D.C. residents, no matter their immigration status." So if you're here illegally or you're here legally, paying taxes and doing all those right things, you're on the same level playing field in the eyes of Miss Bowser. Unbelievable. But if you fast forward now to reality, now Adams and Bowser are struggling with the only 10,000 or so that have been sent to their cities. Bowser has repeatedly called now for the deployment of the National Guard while describing the migrant influx as a humanitarian crisis. Oh, it
Now
is
it's a
a
crisis.
what's
Yeah.
that?
I said now it's a crisis in their
Right.
eyes.
No, it's absolutely a humanitarian crisis. So here's Bowser in her own words.
We need space, and we need the federal government to be involved. So I've asked for the deployment of the Guard, as long as we need the Guard to deal with a humanitarian crisis that we expect to escalate. The number of people crossing the border seeking asylum, we expect to only go up.
It's unbelievable. First of all, Americans can't just go to another country and just stay. And you need a passport to travel back and forth anyway.
Yeah,
That's
well,
just one thing that comes to the top of my mind. The other
you
thing
said
is,
that, when you
yeah,
said that, it reminds me when we had that trip to Denmark that time. We were working
yes,
for a nonprofit group, and wasn't a direct flight. We had to stop over in Iceland.
yep,
And who got pulled over?
yeah, you almost got left.
So what, 200 people on that plane?
Yeah,
One guy.
wasn't me. Wasn't
One
me.
guy got pulled over for extra questions. It was moi.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know
I was
what
like,
happened.
oh well, I have my book stamped. Oh well.
Yeah,
Book.
exactly. You left me behind. No, you actually didn't, but I got pulled over. That's the
Yeah,
way
that
other
was.
countries deal with their immigration policy. Every once in a while, you decide to
Yeah.
pick someone out of the line and do a little inquiry. That's fine. Ask a few questions. But no, not our country.
No,
Unbelievable.
it's outrageous. I mean, on so many levels. Since this administration has been in the White House, we have a monumental list of problems that are going on in our country. But our open border is an absolute nightmare and an absolute disgrace. And we, the people, are paying for these individuals. As I mentioned at the top of the show, New York City, for example, free health care, school supplies, hotel rooms, phones, and that's just New York City. Now, the other thing is that what about people who come here the right way? They go through the proper channels, the right process. They come here legally. It is not instant. It's not immediate. But for them, the time and money that they have to invest to come to the United States legally and the right way, whereas we have this open door, we don't know who is coming in our country. There are news stories about people who are criminals, are
On the
terrorists.
terrorist watch list.
Yeah. So, this is something folks really need to keep an eye on and recognize the fact that this is a travesty for our country. And it's the red carpet across the country. You come to the border, you get flown to wherever or bused to wherever, and that's that. And the end of story. You're in the country.
The other thing that Bowser said that was quite interesting when she called it a humanitarian crisis and crying for the National Guard, calling for the Pentagon to send out the troops. She said the crisis is only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. Why is that? Well, let's listen to Department of Homeland Security, Mayorkas. What did he say about the border? Let's listen.
Speaking of the border, is the border safe now? I was watching a news channel and they were talking about an invasion was happening, and I got a little concerned.
Look, the border is secure. The border, we are working to make the border more secure. That has been a historic challenge.
Mayorkas says the border is secure. Maybe you should call Bowser. I mean, they're in the same city, right? Walk down the block.
They think we're stupid. I mean, we had an episode about that as well.
There'll be another episode too.
And that is why Kamala will not visit the border, because she doesn't want to be photographed with that kind of visual with all these folks streaming across the border, across the water to get into our country. So we have Bowser and we have Adams. They're calling for help. Adams is calling for federal help. Here's a quote from him, quote, "We just need help. We need help," he said earlier this month, while also taking aim at Governor Abbott. Let's take a listen.
We already have a housing crisis. Help us here, because not only is housing, is translation services, is education, it is food.
So Dr. Tom Adams is screaming for resources as well.
Yeah, he's crying for federal help. Why?
Yeah.
Because it is a humanitarian crisis. When people come here with absolutely nothing, they need to be housed, they need to be fed, right? And all of a sudden, he's forgetting what he said in 2019. Come on in, the water's fine.
Yeah.
Again,
and the other thing is they don't speak English. So, whatever age they are, a lot of them don't speak English. So that's another resource that they're getting.
And what does resource means? Means money. And where does the money come from? Taxpayers.
Sure.
So we're subsidizing this entire open border crisis.
But don't worry. Adams has a plan. These free hotel rooms for folks, right?
Exactly.
Luxury, because they're getting the meals. They got the roof over their head, and I guess clothes. Like, I don't know what else they're getting. And Times Square, right? I know.
Be a tourist.
Well, look, This is from the New York Post, Dr. Tom. Quote, New York City moving migrants into famed luxury Times Square hotel, a luxury Manhattan hotel once touted as the lullaby of Broadway, will soon be providing Betty Bye to hundreds of asylum-seeking migrants, the Post has learned. The daily weekday rate for a standard room with one full or queen bed in mid-September, around when the hotel could begin housing migrants, ranges from $414.42 to $435.07 per night, including taxes and facility fees, and depending on the view. Wow. So they even get a room with a view, Dr. Tom.
Room with a
My
view.
goodness.
All right.
Wow. So here's a question. How is the New York hotel industry responding, Dr. Tom? Short answer, come on
They
in.
probably love it.
Open arms. Come on. Come on in. Here's a quote. The head of New York City Hotel Association said Thursday that operators are ready to put up thousands of migrants flocking to New York City in a boost to Mayor Eric Adams in his war of words with Texas Governor Greg Abbott, end quote. Well, here's another quote. According to the union, there are currently 125,000 hotel rooms across the city with a current occupancy rate of about 80%. That means as many as 25,000 unused hotel rooms are available to help shelter in the influx of border crossers. Dr. Tom, what are the consequences of 100% occupancy?
Hello, supply and demand. The other reality is about to hit. So there's what, 25,000 open hotel rooms, and the industry wants to fill them with illegal immigrants. So who's your neighbor when you're paying $400 a night? You don't know.
Yep.
By the way, the
Right.
government doesn't know either. But again, that's another sidebar. But think about the economic consequences. New York City, totally full hotel rooms. Well, that's good for the industry because they got filled, to the brim, to the top. But what if you're a tourist and you want to come to New York City? What's going to happen to prices? When
For
demand
business,
goes high
traveling for
and supply
business.
is down, prices are going to go up.
Yeah.
Also, what about business travelers? Sometimes you're forced to come to New York City on business. Businesses are going to be forced to pay higher hotel rooms. Oh,
Yeah.
then what happens? Businesses pay higher cost. Businesses never really pay it themselves. They pass it on to who? Us, the consumer. So
Right.
can anyone say the word inflation again? I don't think anybody's talking about that. But 100% occupancy in New York City will lead to higher prices.
For sure.
Period. End of story. It's just, it becomes mind-numbing with respect to just how bad these policies are and the consequences of these policies. It's never ending. And again, it's all part of Biden's America Last policy, Americans Last policies, because there's more than one. Then there's going to be the political fallout, over the feud. It turns out that the busing strategy was actually a pretty good political strategy initiated by Governor Abbott. It shows the impact of illegal migrants in a city. Even though they're giving them housing, everything, the local news here in New York and in the tri-state area are forced to cover this. So it's showing really the consequences of the open border. Sorry, Mr. Mayorkas, it is an open border. And most important, as I mentioned, that the news outlets are following all this, and the Democrat liberal mayors, they're forced to try to cover, and now they're complaining for this huge influx of people. And of course, then you have this complete hypocrisy. Adams Mayor Adams in New York City is attacking Governor Abbott, but he's not attacking the root cause of the problem, President Biden. Adams called Abbott, quote, an anti-American governor. What? For trying to enforce the immigration laws of the United States? He's anti-American?
That's anti-American now.
Right. Adams doesn't have a mirror. We're going to have that one again, right? And what Adams went further, because, you know, he's a little arrogant. He's a little bit behind Mayorkas, who's the most arrogant in all of this. He went a little further and he threatened that he was going to send some busloads of New Yorkers to go to Texas to do door knocking for the campaign that Abbott is running, because he's up for re-election in November. So Adams was threatening to send New Yorkers to convince them not to vote for Governor Abbott.
Oh, brother.
Right? Oh, it doesn't stop there. Then Adams has a commissioner of everything, of course, of the Office of Immigration Affairs. All right. He called Abbott a coward. He called him a coward for not being able to deal with the crisis that he is faced with at the border. So New York City's having trouble with 10,000, and some of those are in DC. So I don't know, let's round up, cut it in half. Let's say they're having trouble with 5,000. And Texas, Arizona, other border states are dealing with 200,000 a month.
Yeah.
All right. And who's the coward? And these guys are just all clowns. They all need to be exposed. It's just unbelievable.
That's what we're doing.
And here's the audio of this Commissioner of Immigration Affairs talking about Governor Abbott.
Cowardly action by sending people away from his state instead of leaning into this challenge and helping people who have gone through so much. We're going to show how it's done.
So it's okay. It's no problem when Biden is flying these illegal migrants anywhere in the country, especially in the New York tri-state area. But it's a bad idea, bad, when the red state governors are sending them by bus to, let's say, DC and New York City. Bad idea. How dare they? How dare they?
Funny how that happens, right?
Yeah. But what's different? What's different here? Avoid blaming Biden when, in fact, that is the root cause. As Kamala's always saying, we got to get to the root cause of the matter. It's them. They're the root cause.
Yeah, it's just they're just insufferable with the way their horrible policies are impacting all U.S. citizens. Because again, this is going to be costing us economically, significantly, and the hypocrisy that, oh, if it's happening in the dead of night and no one knows about it, it's not a problem.
It's not happening.
But if it happens with a bus and it comes, unloads in Port Authority in New York City and the cameras are there, then it's Governor Abbott's fault. We still have people coming in. The shelters are still being overcrowded, whether by plane or by bus. But
That's
again,
right.
It's the hypocrisy. And then they just attack Governor Abbott and they stay silent. They're mute with respect to what Biden is doing by not securing the border.
Well, finally, the media is exposing all of this. I mean, it was the two of us basically talking about this for the last several months. So now there's more coverage on this, and thank goodness, because this is a serious issue, a serious situation. Now, Governor Abbott, here's a statement from him to Adams. Mayor Adams. Governor Abbott calls on New York City mayor to turn attacks on President Biden's border crisis. Mayor Adams' problem is not with Texas. It is with President Biden's refusal to stop this border crisis and secure the southern border. President Biden's open border policies created this ongoing humanitarian crisis, allowing record high illegal crossings and deadly drugs like fentanyl to flood into our state. A crisis that has overrun and overwhelmed our border towns and communities across our state, whose requests for help have gone ignored and unanswered by the Biden administration. Abbott also invited Bowser and Adams to the Texas border. Governor Greg Abbott today sent a letter to New York City Mayor Eric Adams and Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, inviting the mayors to visit Texas's southern border to see the humanitarian crisis firsthand. Local communities are being overrun by record high numbers of illegal immigrants as President Biden's reckless open border policies have invited mass migration and transnational criminal activity into Texas communities. This is from Governor Abbott's office, his statement.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty good move. Invite them
Yeah.
down. He should have invited Biden too, because he hasn't been down there at all. And
Right.
What did your girl Kamala or
My
Kamala,
girl.
your girl? What does she do? Right, she
Whoa,
went
whoa,
to was it El Paso? Not really, not on the border.
Nowhere near.
She
Yes.
step in and then out, and then she goes
Right.
to Central American countries so she can take a nice plane ride and give our tax dollars to those countries so they don't the root cause that they call it. No, the root cause is the Biden administration by not securing the border. They didn't build the wall. They stopped finishing the wall, even though we paid for it. So they are the root cause. And it is really a humanitarian crisis. The fentanyl, the number of illegal migrants, the women and the girls, they get raped when they come
Human
over.
trafficking.
And
Yeah.
traffic, and tragically, the ones that die, either in those tractor trailers were crowded in. It's inhumane. But it doesn't matter because Democrats do not care. And if they did care, you'd have Adams and Bowser at least making some critical remarks about an open border. But they will not do it.
Yeah, they're totally ignoring reality. And as you mentioned before, Dr. Tom, America Last policy, right?
That's what it is. And, there is a little bit of a downside to this, sending the busloads, because now with the red carpet, as you put it, how do you think the cartels, or what do you think they're telling the migrants in Central America? Hey, get to New York City and you'll be on Times Square. But there are no good answers. And as you mentioned today, that New York Post story about getting cell phones, and a hospital opened up the doors for some medical facilities for the ones who just came here. I mean, think about the consequences of that.
Yeah.
Who's going to pay for those services? Obviously, it's not the illegal immigrants.
Not the cartels.
Not the cartels. No, whoever's paying for the insurance is going to be paying for that. So if you have private healthcare insurance from your corporation, that's going to be going up because they're squeezing the balloon on this way and it's going to pop up the other way in terms of paying for these things. So there is, a little bit of a downside of the lure, but it is what it is. These people already know it's the equivalent of the golden brick road, right? Follow the yellow brick road.
Brick road.
Back to the Wizard of Oz. Unfortunately, we are in Oz. We need a wizard. We know who the witches are, but I digress. But also just remember, this really is an American last policy, America last policy. And I think we mentioned this once before. This is from the New York Post. It was from a 70-year-old Vietnam veteran who called the situation a sad state of affairs because he happens to be in a homeless shelter. So here we have a veteran who risked his lives for us. Unfortunately, he's in a homeless shelter, and now he's being surrounded by illegal migrants who seem like they're getting far better treatment than what he's getting. It is totally unfair, and I will say it is immoral for Biden, Mayorkas, Harris, the whole slew of them, what they're doing to the American people. But at the end of the day, as we approach November, I do believe this is going to be an important political issue. I think it will have an impact if the Republican candidates carry these messages forward and wake up the people in their districts that every state is a border state, and every congressional district is a border state, but they need to communicate that.
Well, don't forget newly elected Representative Myra Flores. She won in a special election for an open congressional seat in South Texas. And this is from the Houston Chronicle. Since 1870, Democrats have held the 34th district in the Rio Grande Valley. But that all changed when Myra Flores won a special election Tuesday night, soon making her the first Congresswoman born in Mexico. So that happened previously. So yes, the open border is a very good issue for Republicans to run on, Dr. Tom, and we will see what comes in November. So folks, thanks for checking out Reigniting Liberty, and remember, everyone has a role to play. What are you doing for liberty? Until next time.